Do.
Hi, everyone.
Good
Hey,
morning.
Matthew.
I just had our Ryan, the mayor, in my office. He's driving up to his house to jump on. So, and then he's gonna take the meeting. I'm probably gonna jump off, but I'm just
Okay.
till he gets home. So,
Michael, it does look like we have a very good group of attendees already assembled. So
All right. Let's see here. Let's go. Let's get started. Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being online. There's a lot going on. And if we all looked at your packet of information that you got from Bill this week, we're going to go through this stuff pretty fast. But we want to make sure that we leave time for conversing about the messaging and community outreach that we're doing this summer. So we're going to start off the meeting a little bit first with going into just kind of the meat of the RTA, and Bill's going to take that over at the IGA, and then we'll go into the marketing stuff. Bill, take it away.
great. Thanks. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to kick this over to Polly and Kirsten here. But yeah, we're about a month away from our first local government considering final adoption of the IGA. So we have another meeting scheduled on July 31st for this group. So my guess is we probably want to have the IGA substantively complete by the 31st. So I'm going to turn it over to Polly and Kirsten to go through items in the IGA that were discussed at the last few meetings. So we can start wrapping that up. Polly, would you like me to share the IGA?
Yes, I think that would be helpful.
Great.
And then I can just walk through the revisions that I made that really addressed our funding related discussions, and related ballot questions and the donation agreement. There are also a few minor cleanup changes that you may have noticed if you page through the version that Bill circulated.
Keep going. I'm
as
looking for it.
actually, Bill, do I have the ability to share? I do have it
Yes.
up on my screen.
Yeah, I will give you the ability right now.
Okay.
Sorry. I thought I had everything ready to share, and obviously I didn't have that. So go for it. You should have that.
Okay. Just looking for my option to share. Here we are. Got it. Okay. Are people seeing the IGA on the screen?
Yes.
So the version we're looking at reflects our discussions from the meeting on the 5th and the 20th. And I'm just going to page through them. We had some revisions that altered the table of contents, so that's really just a formatting issue. There's really nothing in our recitals that changes by virtue of our kind of shift in approach. So the first changes that you'll see are down in voter approval. And one of the elements here that we discussed, of course, is not having a funding measure on the ballot. So this revision removes the reference to Tabor-related issues in the ballot questions. I'm going to put a little bit of a placeholder here. The city of Craig, of course, will be working with Moffat County, so is not part of the election that'll be conducted by Routt County. One thing that we'll do in the next draft is determine what the there's some costs associated with the election that typically we've worked out with the county. And Bill, I don't know if you have had some of those conversations or not, but that will be something we'll need to address to the extent that the formation, that there haven't already been contributions sufficient.
So I have not spoken to either county clerk about a estimate for the cost of the election, but it sounds like we probably should do that here pretty soon, so you can fill that number in. So for Craig, it'll be whatever, there won't be a percentage. For Craig, it'll be whatever the Moffat County clerk says that Craig needs to pay. Now, Randy, you're already coordinating an election for your LMD renewal, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're already meeting and getting a schedule, basically following your schedule for the RTA. And there is a cost, and I have that, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah, so I wonder, I'll work with your city clerk and the Moffat County clerk, and we'll get that resolved for Polly.
Perfect.
On the Routt County side, do we just want to make it a percentage of voters? I think that's what Eagle Valley did.
I do too.
Okay.
So if that's acceptable, then I think that should be a fairly straightforward calculation with the clerk.
Which probably means Steamboat Springs is going to pay the lion's share of the election costs.
So this next change had to do with the minimum election results required to move forward with the authority. And by statute, we have to have at least 2 members. And the shift we discussed during the last meeting was to require Steamboat Springs to be one of those jurisdictions that approves the IGA and any other of the member jurisdictions. So as long as Steamboat Springs and one other of our formation committee members approves, we'll move forward with the IGA. That's what this change accomplishes. The next change here is really just a clarification. This is what happens if we were to have less than the full number of members approve for director purposes. And this doesn't change that. It just reflects the fact that the number of members could be reduced either because not the full suite approve the IGA or because members subsequently drop out. So rather than referring to remaining members, which contemplates members dropping out, this just says the then current number of members will appoint directors. So this is purely an editorial change. Then we come down to powers of the authority. And one of the issues that Bill and I were discussing and followed from our decision not to fully fund the authority or not to vote a funding measure was that we wanted to be sure that the authority board has discretion in how it allocates funds and isn't obligated under the IGA to do things that it doesn't have funding to do. So this is some just fine tuning of language that indicates that these are responsibilities but not requirements of the authority. So again, a more subtle drafting and editorial point, but that's the rationale for these changes. So instead of saying the authority shall coordinate, it just says the authority shall be responsible for coordinating. So it's an assignment of responsibility rather than direct obligations or mandatory obligations. Down in contract transit services, the other shift that happens without funding and that Bill and I discussed is exactly what will be happening with Steamboat Springs Transit. And what we've done here with some input from Steamboat Springs is just to give the authority up to 3 years to transfer the regional bus services and to give the authority some leeway with this language to the extent reasonably possible in the event that funding becomes an issue. So related to that, we also removed the transportation plan requirement and associated exhibit. And that will leave a lot more discretion to the board to just work it out with Steamboat Springs Transit once the authority is formed. So you'll see that a little bit later in the document. Funding the authority. We have in our draft a concept of two types of funding. One category are baseline funding, options or requirements. And because we're not putting any tax measures on the ballot, these tax provisions are moved down to our second category, which are authorized sources of funding, but not the initial baseline funding. So these revisions reflect 3 sources of baseline funding. First of all, the Steamboat Springs Resort Pledge, and we'll touch on that in a moment. It contemplates the attachment of a pledge agreement that's signed by the resort and effective upon the formation on January 1st of 2026 following formation of the authority. So it would be attached, executed, and part of this agreement. So that is $1 million annually for 20 years, beginning January 1st, 2026. The second is simply pursuit of grants and donations. This was an optional provision below in our second category, which I moved up to this section of the agreement. And it just requires the authority to actively pursue grants and sources of funding, which I believe is consistent with our discussions over the past couple meetings. And then the third is simply the use of fees and tolls and rates and charges for travelers. So that was part of our baseline funding in the original draft as well. Section 702 and 703 just reflect giving the authority giving the authority to pursue taxes, to receive existing taxes from its member jurisdictions. And then we have the remaining sources of available funding listed here. Pursuit of grants and donations, as I mentioned, I moved up to the first category of funding that the authority will be relying on as part of its baseline funding. Article 8 are the provisions that provided more detail about how Steamboat Springs Transit regional service would be transitioned over to the authority. We've taken a lighter touch here and made it a much more, I'll say, less prescriptive element of the agreement. So now there is no longer kind of an outline of a transition plan, and this detail we've pulled out in part because of the uncertainty of timing and funding associated with that. And again, all of this, we'll want to discuss and make sure everybody's comfortable. And I believe that those are all of the substantive revisions that have come out or been implicated in our funding discussions and formation discussions over the past meeting. So, any questions or points here that we should dig into?
Just
Right.
one question. If the SST is transferred, it's just the service that's being transferred, not the assets. Is that the situation?
I think we contemplated that there would be some transfer of assets also. And here's Bill, where you might be able to help refresh my memory, but I think we contemplated there would need to be some additional, and we'd take over some of those regional buses.
Yeah,
as
I
the
mean,
author-
I'd welcome Jonathan Flint to jump in and just give his thoughts on what that would look like. If Jonathan, you can jump on and talk about
Sure.
that. I mean, it's what Steamboat Springs Transit would like to see happen, I think, is my answer.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be both the transfer of assets, but also a discussion of transfer of liabilities as well. For example, we have a bus that's going in to be refurbished, will not be delivered until probably next year. It's a regional bus. Who pays the matching funds for that kind of thing. So I think, and that's going to be really a decision made by our city council, how they want to handle that, how they want to do that. Is that a one-time? Is it a thing over time? That kind of thing. So I will be looking to our city council to direct that. But yeah, I think there will be transfer of both assets and liabilities.
Okay, Jonathan, I was thinking about the Sally Port here in Craig.
Yeah, there's going to be that, the vehicles, probably some of the maintenance equipment specific to the vehicles, and also we're going to have to discuss as well, the personnel as well, the drivers that we currently have hired to do regional service. So that's going to be a pretty in-depth discussion on how that's done. Just looking at other transit agencies or how that's been done, I would caution just a real harsh upfront is pretty challenging. To say, okay, here's everything and this is the cost. So that's where I think our council is going to have to work out how we want to do that transfer.
Yeah, thank you.
So I've put on the screen the provision that addresses that transfer, and as you can see, it's a fairly light and I'll say squishy provision now that would give a lot of discretion to how it's done.
Yeah, I think the key thing in there is the 3 years, so that it is worked on and doesn't go over a real long period of time.
Are there other comments or questions? I guess the part of that is to say, are you comfortable with that response?
Yeah, from City of Steamboat, I know it gives us a longer 3-year runway to figure it out, and then the new authority board will help identify and work through some of those specifics. So I see it's just a lot more flexible in your word and verbiage. All right.
other questions or concerns, or does this seem to capture what we've been discussing?
Looks like it covers everything that we've been going through. If you guys have any, if there's something in there that you guys see along the way, even after this meeting, please email Polly and Bill and do a group text or something like that to make it happen. But Polly, again, this is going to be changed, or it still can be edited up until that August date when we have to have it formalized in our resolutions. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Resort contribution draft.
1 second. Sorry, Mike.
Oh, sorry, Bill.
Polly. Remember, though, we have to have it in the packet for the city of Craig because they're going the first on August 12th. And they probably, Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but you probably wanted available maybe the Wednesday before for your packet, council packet, correct?
Yeah, typically, at least by Thursday, Bill.
By Thursday.
Yeah.
So really our date
It's a month away.
is a month away.
Mhm.
So I would highly recommend that every jurisdiction on this call have your city, town, or county attorney review this IGA, give it one last review before early August, just so we don't have any problems on a jurisdictional level.
Michael, I just have a question. At our last meeting, did we put to rest whether we're doing property taxes or not? Or is that still an open discussion, which means we need to make a decision?
Well, I think that Ryan, I think you brought it up that we wanted to kind of keep a property tax as an option. And here's why we have this meeting here today. And the last one will be Thursday, July 31st. So if there's a consensus on the group right now to keep a property tax on there, now's the time to do it. What do you guys feel overall? Last week we had it, we were keeping it off, even though Ryan, I know you wanted to kind of keep it on there. What are your thoughts, Randy or Ryan?
Well, my thoughts are, since the last meeting, I've been talking around and seeing it's not going to hurt to put it back on, just because the board can then, that gives them an option. I mean, I still don't think it's a great option, but after Ryan's points and discussion and our meeting, I just thought more about it. I really don't want to limit us. I mean, I did, but I don't now. I really don't want to limit us.
Ditto to Randy. Love it. Michael, what do you think?
I'm fine with keeping it as an option. We brought up property tax last night at our council meeting, but just in general. But for the RTA, if we keep it as an option, I think it's, as the future moves forward, this is an IGA that's going to last for years unless it's changed by the authority. I have no problem putting it in there. Putting it back in there.
Hey,
we've talked a lot about it. So I think as we've now decided to keep it as keeping this flexible IGA, it probably has some wisdom to do that. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually have changed my mind to the opposite. I've heard from a couple people that they are feeling like the creation of the RTA is just a ploy to get more funding and to put a property tax on because the city is afraid to do it, and that it makes them nervous about the RTA. So it's funny, I had the opposite experience where I felt the way you guys do now, but now I realize what Sonia was saying, that politically it will be easier to pass if we just say outright we won't be using a property tax, even though I do appreciate it limits what the RTA could do in the future. So I would vote to keep it off.
Now, is that a few conversations you've had, or
yeah, like farmers market, face to face, people coming up and talking to me about fiscal and financial stuff.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we have I just, from a kind of drafting and optics perspective, we have expressly, I've highlighted the language that expressly prohibits the imposition of a property tax. If I were to delete this, we were to delete this sentence, it the authority is not limited by the AGA. We just wouldn't be mentioning the tax. The third option would be to give it its own section and expressly discuss its powers to impose a property tax. So I just wanted to point out that, you know, from a this is a little bit of a game, but we have, you know, not called out all of the funding and tax related powers of the authority intentionally, just the ones that we intend to highlight and, you know, have, I guess, be most visible. So, you know, as we're thinking about that, one option might be to simply be silent. And of course, it wouldn't limit it, but it also would not draw attention or create the impression that that's something the authority is going to be first on the authority's list to pursue.
Sonia, do you have an opinion? Or I'd love to hear from the county. Or Stacy, anyone else?
Yes, I have a very strong opinion about this. I am really disappointed that we have arrived at the 11th hour and we are now talking about walking back something that we had all agreed to for the past year plus. And, you know, I am looking now not just at the passage of this information, I'm looking at how do we work together once we get to the other side. And I feel as though it would be a shame to see us walking down the road for a year under one form of agreement and then just at the 11th hour, because somebody has an idea and somebody thinks it might work, we just sort of change our minds. So I see this as one substantively the wrong way to go. As Brian mentioned, people think it's a bait and switch, and I don't think it's equitable between Routt and Moffat counties. So that's a problem. But also I see it as procedurally very challenging to think that we are just going to build this good trust and relationship and walk along the path of everybody has consensus around issues. And then now we're going to throw this, what I would consider to be very divisive item into the works. So I am a hard no on the property tax question and have been from moment one and have explained, I think, a million different ways why I think it's a poor choice. And that's where I'm at. Thanks.
Thanks for your input.
Sonia, I'll push on you here that we also are pivoting from the idea of a funding mechanism being on the ballot this fall, which was our plan, right? Up until a few months ago, before we got all that voter data and all that polling. And you're right, we were not talking about property tax then because we were going to go to the voters and we did not think that'd be viable. At this point, it's to me, a fundamentally different question now because we're not going to voters for taxing anything this fall. And this really is just a way to like provide the most options for the people who will be on this formation or who will be on this committee and on this board 5-10 years from now. And that's my take. And I think I agree that like, sure, there could be viewed as a bait and switch, but it's not though, because like any taxing entity, any taxing, whatever platform we put in is going to be voted on by the district. They are going to have the ultimate voice. This is just putting all the menu options on the table. Primarily because we switched from, we're going to have this as a taxing question in November to not doing that, just formation. And here we are. So that's why I feel more comfortable with it.
I mean, that's fine for you. I'm going to stay in a hard no position. And, you know, I guess my question is going to be, is this worth blowing up this team over? If it is, then we can do that. The other thing I would say is that I personally have not been committed to putting a tax on the ballot this November for a very long time. And I think we've been very clear about talking about options and trying actually even as far back as when that article came out that talked about taxing to stop that conversation. So, you know, I don't think that personally I had been moving towards a November ballot. I don't think Routt had, and I don't think this group had. I think maybe a couple of people had. So I think you guys make the call. I mean, if you want to blow it up, blow it up. I think there's an option for the group down the road to make that choice, revisit the IGA if they think it's important, but I just think it's bad strategy, bad policy, and bad relationship building.
I just want to say, as far as I'm concerned, that I'm with Sonia only because I know if that's in the IGA, my board is going to be like, nope, that's not something that we wanted to do because we've already implemented taxes. And I know that it's an option. I understand that. But I also understand that when you're looking at a board that, you know, is not on board 100% as it is, they're going to be the first ones that go, nope, we're not doing this. And I agree, we can change an IGA later if we decide that this is something we want to really look at and it's an option that everybody thinks will work. I think that's our best strategy.
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Sonia. Anybody else? All right. Well, in the spirit of unity, let's keep that sentence in there for now, and we can address a property tax at a later date. I'm fine with that as well. All right.
Okay.
Anything else on the IGA? All right. Why don't we run to the resort contribution draft? We want to go through that.
Yes, one moment, and I'll swap screens here. So as an initial matter, this form of agreement has not gone to the resort yet. And it's a very simple document. It's intended to simply document the pledge commitment. Sorry, we've got a spelling issue there. Of $1 million on January 1st of each year for 20 years, beginning January 1st. We have I'll call it an acknowledgement provision or a paragraph, which is really intended to be here to make this enforceable as a unilateral pledge. So we have reliance and a reference to the consideration for the pledge being the regional public multimodal transportation system that the authority is being formed to manage. And then this last clause makes this pledge contingent on the formation of the authority in accordance with the act, and to make it enforceable immediately upon formation of the authority. We have highlighted here the entity only because we need some information from the resort about their legal entity that can then bind them to this pledge. We think we have it right. So very simple document. I think the ask today is simply, what, if anything, the committee wants to add. We could provide some additional recitals, but mostly this is just a mechanical document that will be attached to the IGA to document this pledge, and it'll be attached as a signed document. So in other words, it will formalize the pledge as a binding legal commitment from the resort.
Thanks, Polly. I think from our perspective, I'm happy to hear if folks have suggestions, but obviously I need to take this to legal, and I would rather have us take this draft from it and bring it back to have it reviewed by this group as opposed to the other way around.
Yes, and Sarah, that's fully anticipated that you need to take it to your legal group, and it hasn't been to you yet. So I think what we're hoping for today is just confirmation that, as a starting point, we have your input and hopefully have adequately documented the intent from the resort, and then we can work on the legal details.
Great.
Cool. All right. Let's move on to intent to participate letter for county clerks.
Okay, and I'm going to turn that over to Kirsten and Bill. So Bill, I will stop sharing or let's see, hopefully I'll stop sharing.
Great. And I think this one's really simple. Kirsten, jump in. I'm not even going to bring it up. There's a draft of a letter. If your local government needs to inform the clerk by July 25th in the form of a letter that you intend to participate in the coordinated election, if you need a draft of that letter, that was attached to the materials. If you don't, then you don't need to use it. But please be sure to get that letter into the clerk. I spoke with the clerk about a week ago, and she acknowledged that she pretty much knows everyone wants to participate, but she still wants that letter for her files. So, and then in Moffat County, Randy and Peter, you probably have already done that because you have your LMD, but you might want to let the Moffat County clerk know that the RTA question is up there as well if you haven't already done that.
Yep, we got it covered, Bill.
Got it. And maybe everyone's got this covered. So we just wanted to provide that. In addition, and I'll let Kirsten take over, we have attached as well what the potential ballot question will look like. That will eventually go into the IGA, final IGA as well. But we wanted you all to start to see and respond to what the actual ballot language will look like. So I will try and bring that up on the screen. If Kirsten, you want to just talk about the simple mechanics of the question.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Bill. So we have eliminated some of the complications of the legal issues, of course, without the tax proposal because we don't have all the Tabor compliance issues. We will make sure that the question is compliant with law, but there is also the element of strategy. And so it is really important for each jurisdiction to consider how they want to approach the ballot question now. It will just be formation. And we have included two alternatives, one with specificity about the plans, the service plans, and the goals of the RTA. That's the ballot question alternative one. And Bill, I believe we worked on this together because it's based on some of the polling that you've done. Is that correct? The bullets that we pulled together here. And so that's the part that really deserves attention from the elected officials about what aspects are selling for the communities. And then the second alternative is just a general formation question. I think either work. And timing wise, though, we do need to incorporate these into the IGA. And I think we'd probably want to conform the recitals to any of the ballot questions that have this level of specificity in alternative one.
Just a couple quick notes for everyone. Every jurisdiction has to have the same question, correct? It can't be customized per jurisdiction, I believe. Kirsten, is that correct?
You know, I haven't considered that, but I do think we could customize it. I will come back and take a look. Polly might know, but I do think you could customize it. I think it's probably better though, strategy-wise, and take input from others that you approach it the same way. Certainly if you're going to put the specificity of the bullets in there.
Yep.
Yeah,
And just one other quick detail for everyone to know, it does not have to be in all caps because it's not a Tabor question. So it does read in lowercase. Go ahead, Polly, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm hesitant to customize because we don't want to create any question about whether everybody's approved the same thing.
Good point.
Yep. Okay. All right. So Kristen or Polly, what do you guys, do you need an answer from us or a consensus from us tonight, or on one or the other? Or do we still have time to make that decision on the 31st, Thursday?
So all of this needs to be wrapped into the IGA. So Bill, Polly, timing wise, I don't know how you want to turn the final draft, but one other point on this, we did put together a template resolution that I'm happy to work with any of your attorneys to finalize, but the entire package that goes into your agenda packet will include the resolution, the final IGA, with the ballot questions incorporated, and you're taking action to both finally approve the IGA and refer the ballot question to the voters. So all of that has to be done and into the packets together.
So I'd say it's pretty safe to say by July 31, we should pretty much have this finalized. Because we'll be making packets a week later.
Yes, we will make sure all of that conforms. I'm sorry, I'm responding to Sonia just had a question about the acronyms. I think your YBTA IGA is, I believe, what she's referencing.
Yeah, we would need to define those in the ballot question. Formulation number 2.
Okay.
So I think the issue is, do we want the simpler ballot question, version number 2? Or do we want to go with something more like the top one, which includes some of the aspirations now, because we're not going to have immediate funding for all the service goals. So it's more aspirational bullet points. Or is that that's what I think we need is direction on what do the members want to see on their ballots.
There you go. Let's get some feedback. What do you guys think?
Well, if it was just going in on the ballot day and voting, I would definitely say we need to go easier. But since you're getting the packet ahead of time, you're usually 90% of the people are voting via mail. It gives them time to read it. I prefer the upper one where you're giving them more definition of what we're trying to do.
Sonia, do you have an opinion? Or Ryan? Anyone? Bill or Brian?
I agree with Randy. I prefer the top one as well.
Yeah, the top one to me, I'm 50-50 right now, so I'm more curious on what the rest of you guys think. To me, giving a little bit more clarity as to what the service goals are and what the anticipation is, the aspirations, like you say, Bill, seems more helping the citizens make a decision. So, puts it right there in print what our goals are.
Yeah. I mean, I'll play a little devil's advocate, and this kind of maybe goes off of something Brian said earlier. Someone could read this and go, well, how in the world are they going to accomplish all this? So that's just a little devil's advocate for the group to think of.
Okay.
Well, and I think the other comment I would make is we also could we say fairly strongly that this formed for the purposes of providing these enhanced transportation services. In a lot of instances, we've qualified this with subject to board approval and the YBTA IGA in order to just be clear that or a little clearer that these may not happen out of the gate.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Option 1, option 2.
I think in the chat, Sonia favored the simpler version.
I saw that. Mr. Banks.
Classic me here, saying something, thinking about it for a while. maybe the second one was better because I do, to Bill's point, I feel like when we lay the goals out, it could be construed, if someone just really doesn't like rail or doesn't, I don't know if that's that big of a deal. The reason I had an aversion to the simple one, the second option, is it's just really that it's just simple. It's just creating this transportation authority without any context in the ballot language, which is why I kind of didn't like it. But now I'm back to 50-50, Michael. Back with you now.
Well, and I'm same way. I originally preferred the shorter one, and then I was thinking we really need to get out what they're voting for. But yeah, we are just doing formation. We're not doing the rest of the stuff you say in the first one. So yeah, yeah. I'm back. I'm back to the second one just because, yeah, all we're doing is formation, period.
Let's keep it simple. Let's keep it simple.
Or could we just put the first bullet point in there? That's it.
And it doesn't have to be a bullet point. Like that messaging could just get wrapped into the text of the second one. I think I cut someone off. Sorry.
That's right.
I was just going to try to weigh in real quick. I got to jump in my car and head down, so I'm going to leave you guys quickly. My only thought on this one is that I think the simple text is the better text, and part of the reason I say that is because I think that the first text with all of the detail is, I mean, as Ryan says, maybe somebody likes one element but not the other. But then the other question is, as we're out talking about this and people know we're involved with it, they're going to ask us about these things. They're going to say, how specifically are you going to accomplish, whether it's bullet point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now we're going to have, a formation committee of folks making up our own answers that may or may not be consistent altogether. So, it sort of feels like what we've been trying to say to people is we want to form this district and seat a board that has equitable representation so that that board can make the decisions about how to implement these projects in the future. And to me, that's a very simple message. So I'm not really in favor of throwing in the laundry list because I do think it just muddies that simple message.
Bill, when you did your other ballot language for Eagle Valley and others, was it the simple one or more of a complex one?
Yeah, so now remember the other ones all included a tax component. So we went with bullet points because we very much wanted to show folks, if you approve this tax, here's what it's getting spent on. So I think that definitely is a different dynamic because there was funding for Eagle Valley. RAFTA was a very large tax and bond measure. And we really wanted to show people this is what we're committing to spend it on. This is different, right? Now that we're just doing formation. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's just, again, a lot of us are 50-50, but I think I want to err on the side of simplicity. And so let's just kind of keep it with the simple one. If I'm getting a lot of head nods in that one. So for you, Bill, Polly, and Kirsten, why don't we shoot for the simple version? Get some of those acronyms defined in there so we know what we're talking about, and keep going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Did you want to talk about the timeline on that? Or we don't need, I mean,
yeah, it just, the timeline's been revised to show that 2 of our communities are not going to need 2 readings of the process. So it's just amended to show that. But our circled date is August 12th because that's when Craig will have their first reading. So that's really, kind of everything's got to be wrapped up. We've already discussed it in time for their packet.
Good call.
Go ahead, Michael. Sorry.
No. I had no more. I'm just saying good call.
I think our next thing is CDOT.
Yep.
Yeah, and we had a note from CDOT indicating they'd have a response to us back by the end of the month. Their 90 days is running. So we may actually have passed that at this point, but we would like formal response from them if we can. So that's on our list to follow up now that we're we're past the 4th of July holiday.
Are you saying that their 90 days has run out?
I don't think it has quite yet, but they're down to the last few days. And I apologize, do that calculation before the call. But they had committed to get a response by the end of the month. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sonia.
Our transportation commissioner is very committed to this project, and I have had to ask him on more than one occasion to help us get CDOT off the dime on certain things. So please let me know if it feels like we need to nudge them a little bit more forcefully. He's been very effective.
Yeah, and I would say, Sonia, that it probably merits a nudge. I don't think that we have a substantive issue. I think we have Shoshana Liu has been out on maternity leave. And it's been, her signature they've been waiting for. But again, I don't think a nudge hurts.
Okay, I'll reach out. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Let's jump into messaging and community outreach discussion.
Yeah, I'll take over on that one.
Thank
So
you.
attached to all the materials was our sample mailer that we're just picked one community to work from just to get like one locked in and completed and approved by our group. We picked Craig randomly for that. So I can bring it up on the screen. But what I would like is if everyone can, review, take a look at it, give any final feedback on that by the end of the week, we can not only start getting that version ready to go, but then the Fair and Peer team and I will create one that will be going to the city of Steamboat Springs. We can make one just for Oak Creek. We can make one just for Yampa. One for the unincorporated, one for Hayden, and we'll then get those to you as your community representatives on this committee to proofread, take a look at, and then get those into the production pipeline. So the goal is that we get this mailer out in July so that people can have some materials to review about the RTA. It will have a QR code and a web address to take them to a survey. So I'll skip down to that issue as well, that we have I've developed a sample survey, and it can be customized by community. So if there are some questions you would like to be asked within your community, so we have a page in that survey because Craig, for example, provided us with some questions that if you say in that survey you're from Craig, you only get those questions, and they were developed by Randy and Peter. So if you know there's some questions you would like to ask within your community of your community members, please follow up and share those with me, and we can create that custom logic within this online survey. So you can see here, it's really working from our handout, our one pager. We're going to make this feedback section even bigger. We're going to reduce down the size of the committee member box and even make this bigger, make this web address way bigger. And so we really want to, get that information out. And then we've got some of the aspirational pieces here and why they could benefit the community. So that's the approach. Would love any feedback. Could get that offline is fine. We can talk about it on the call, but please review. please take a look at the survey. Got some survey edits back from Sonia and other members of the committee, and it's made the survey better. So I do want to thank you all for taking time to look at that.
Bill, so deadline is Friday. What type of timeframes do you think before it'll be mailed out? Are we talking a couple of weeks? Are we talking end of July? I just wanted to see if it, particularly with meetings the 31st, it'd be nice to have it in residents' hands at least a week before that meeting.
Yeah, I think if we, I was trying to pull up my calendar real quick. If we can start to get these approved, we can get them into the production time next week. These could start hitting people's mailboxes around the 19th or 21st.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a printer ready to go on these. So it's basically we just need to then start cranking them out community by community. And the Fair and Peers design team has been very helpful with this for me.
Cool.
Thanks for putting those together, guys. I'm going to have to drop off here momentarily, but I did just want to flag that I know that this is not the group or the place for talking about a campaign, but Sarah, I'm going to put you on the spot because she has some good news about how the resort might help move forward with that. And I just wanted to make sure we have an opportunity to chat about next steps for an additional meeting where it would be more appropriate to talk about some kind of activity related to a campaign.
Yeah, thanks, Sonia. Yeah, so we have scheduled, so first this, I have secured $15,000 from the resort to help with the campaign. Again, recognizing that this isn't the place that we can talk about a campaign, but we have scheduled a meeting for next week. And let's see, I can tell you what it is. It is, sorry. It is the Thursday, the 17th, from 8:30 to 9:30 on Teams. If anybody is interested, I know, again, can't really talk too much about it here. Please email me and I will make sure to forward the invitation to you. Thanks.
You.
Cool. That is good news. Thank you very much, Ski Corps.
Well, we'll
Stepping
need
up.
more. We'll need more. So we are talking to potential folks for matching or contributing.
No, that's awesome. Sarah, thank you.
Great. So on the mailers, look for some new, each community will see a version come out, and I'll send it to them for review, proofing, and we will start to get this moving and pushing forward. And once again, on the survey, the links in the agenda, feel free to take the survey. We know, we can clear out responses before it becomes a public survey, but would love your feedback on it. And if you have community-specific questions you would like to have asked, please just email me those. Michael, I know you have a 10 o'clock meeting as well, so I'm going to be real quick on these next two.
No.
agenda
Yeah,
items.
don't. My group can wait. We're not worried.
Elevator speech, I'm wrapping that up. We talked about that on our last call, kind of key messaging and key things we don't want to talk about. So I will have that draft out to the group. I apologize, but that's close. Local events list. I created a Google Sheet. This was a suggestion Michael had, that there's lots of events that are happening in the community and the region. I created a Google Sheet. If that works for everyone, we can go in and put the name of the event, the dates, a formation committee member or partner that would like to cover it, and we could even figure out resources if you need handouts. We're trying to get a tent. We are not trying. We are getting a sunshade tent done with our RTA branding on it so that there's some protection from the sun. So If you go in, if you know of events, go into this Google Sheet. I'll check it every once in a while. We can even send updates around via email. If you don't like Google Sheets, just email me and I'll add it to the Google Sheet. Happy to do that. So that'll be good to compile. And let's do that well into the fall. And at some point, we can just print it out and hand it to Sarah, and it can transition to the other effort. So don't hesitate putting lots of dates all the way through November in here.
Yeah, so let me just add to that. So what happened is that as we're starting to look at the county fair and anything going on in Craig and the Moffat County Fair, we try to anticipate people are going to be looking and wanting, and we really want to do a positive outreach. Having this tent structure that has the Yampa Valley Transit Authority kind of on that so people can see it from a distance, maybe draw people in. But more importantly is that I want to be able to attend some of those that are going on in your community, whether it's Oak Creek, Yampa, Craig. We all need to share in that so we as this formation committee can attend. Doesn't mean you have to, but we have the opportunity to be there. But also in your community, we wanted to be able to have something more than you standing at a table. So having a shade structure that says, hey, Mike, in Oak Creek, we're going to do the Labor Day thing. Could we use the tent there? We can set something up and answer questions. That's really the intent of this Google Sheets, and be able to have something that we as a group can share the shade structure and use it quite a bit over the next few months to get out. I'm open to any other suggestions. This is just something that came up to me, and I was wanting to make sure we incorporate that so that we really do a great outreach and we are all working together. Everyone good on that? Thumbs up? Okay. All right. So use that Google Sheets. Billy, you were going to add more?
I'm sorry, Michael.
Were you going to add any more?
To this topic?
Yes, sir.
No.
Okay.
Last kind of major thing on this is we want to do a couple or a handful of kind of stakeholder meetings. We can also invite community members and try and get that done in July and August so that we can educate some key folks in the different communities and our different jurisdictions. So I wanted to go over that with you all. I have reserved a space at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on July 31st in Steamboat Springs. We could, have that for folks in the city of Steamboat Springs, county folks, anyone. I don't know, Michael, if that works on your calendar. We have a formation committee meeting earlier that day. So I would come up in and help facilitate those meetings. I met with Randy and Peter with Craig yesterday, and we also decided we can do one on July 31st at 12:30 in Craig. So right after our formation committee meeting on the 31st, we'd have one in Craig. Then we can do one in Steamboat Springs. We can then schedule into early August, South Route, Mayor Banks. If you want to do one in Hayden, we can do that. It's really, do we want to do these? I think we should do these. And, kind of how many should we have? Where should we have them? But if we'd like to do them, we can get them kicked off on July 31st, and then we can do them through August. And I think these could be a good springboard for kind of building some awareness among kind of community leaders. And then that can transition into kind of the phase in September and October.
Okay. All right. I think we should plan those on the 31st for the ease of use, both in Craig and Steamboat. And then South Route, you guys tell us what works for you guys, what you think works, and we'll incorporate that in the 1st of August or end of July, whatever works there.
Yeah. And then also if we want one in Hayden, just let me know. If you think
Yeah.
you have folks in your community that'd like to get together. I don't really want these to be town hall meetings because if they get advertised like that, no one comes. I mean, look at our public meetings back in the spring, right? We didn't have we advertised them, not a lot of people came. I think this is a good, more like high level briefing. Business leaders, nonprofit folks. So I will write up invitations and then I'll just need support and help to get these out to the right folks. And I know Sarah has already given me a great list of people to work from, and we'll be working from that as well. Cool. Move forward.
Good on that.
All right. That's all I have. We have, just as I said, we have our next meeting set for July 31st, and that I would say is really IGA. We're going to get it, it's going to be substantively done pretty much at that meeting. That's probably what that's for.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so without any other questions or hand raise, I can adjourn the meeting, but I just want to encourage everybody that when you're in your own city council meetings or such, think of that Google Sheets of what you want to just put in there, events that you would like to see an RTA representation, I think is better. So if you're in Hayden, for example, Matt and Ryan, and you got something, as long as I know ahead of time, I'll be more than happy to come out and be a warm body to explain and talk to people. And that's kind of my commitment across the county, the whole county and the whole district. So I want to just know what's going on so that we can kind of participate together. So as you go, get back to this email, add stuff to that Google Sheets or email Bill Ray. And that way we'll start having a general calendar for everybody on the committee and actually get our community outreach a little bit more robust and organized on the front end. What happens at the individual events can be discussed later. It's just that we need to know when and where people want the RTA tent and what events that you think would be good to have attendance. For example, we're doing the farmers market, so that helps. All right.
Great.
How
Ryan?
soon, just quick question with the tent. How soon are you getting it and how do we plan on transporting it between events?
We'll put it on a bus.
Just a pop-up, right?
Yeah.
It's easy. It's just a question of coordinating. Okay, like we have homemade homegrown this weekend. I don't think you have it yet, but
No,
right.
it'll probably be next week.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I want. If we had it on a calendar, you can recognize that if something pops up in Hayden and Ryan looks at it and says, well, the tent's already committed in Craig, there's your answer, right?
Got it.
You don't have to ask anybody. You don't have to look, just go to the calendar and go, oh, hey, no one's using it on this Tuesday. Let's do it, right? Or this Friday. So it's just kind of a place for everyone to go to one source and get the information.
We can also get a couple like sandwich board kind of triangle or, printed as well.
Well, one of the things we create that might be an idea because I already created it and we're gonna head and that's what I have at Craig is a pull-up banner that says RTA and lists the basic thing and then it just slopes back down. And in addition to the handouts we've created that as well.
Okay.
And because we got one on one side for the LMD and then the other on the other side for the RTA. And that's easy and cheap to do.
Cool. Little graphic design. Well, we'll work through that, Bill, and see what we can add.
Yep. I'm on it.
All right, my friends. Without any further questions, I'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for your time, and we'll see you at the end of the month.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.